Right from the start of this year, we have been experiencing shutdowns, internet blockages, social media blockages, and everything that you can think of. It is happening right now for the last 10, 11 months in the country. And I don't think it is going to be any different in the next year as well.
Think I'll start my personal gripe, which is, the only way to sort of make sense of all this is through humor. Sometimes we use dark humor among our groups. I think my biggest gripe among all this is I can't send stickers anymore.
People are not watching legacy media houses. They are not following them. They are moving towards social media and other channels to get news.
And obviously so, right? Because I mean, there is this perception that also mainstream media, as we tend to call it, or in the American context, termed as legacy media, does tend to gatekeep.
But it can't be the new normal because the world's moving ahead. The world's, it's reaching for the stars, and we're still talking about whether VPNs are Islamic or non-Islamic.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the DigiPod. I am Farieha Aziz. I'm joined today by Wasif Shakil, who's been working with DawnNews for over a decade as a digital media journalist. And I'm also joined by Shahzeb Ahmed, who is the editor of Prism at Dawn. Thank you both for joining us. Today, what we're discussing is how difficult reporting and journalism has become, especially the issues that newsrooms are facing with the network disruptions, VPN bans, arbitrary blockades, such as the ban on Twitter. And to what extent is this impacting digital journalism in particular? Wasif, let me come to you first. In terms of the newsroom and connecting with reporters in the field, and we saw what happened over the weekend as well, for live coverage purposes, especially for digital, how difficult has this year been, but especially the last month?
Right from the start of this year, we have been experiencing shutdowns, internet blockages, social media blockages, and everything that you can think of. It is happening right now for the last 10, 11 months in the country. And I don't think it is going to be any different in the next year as well. And what we have been experiencing for the last so many months, I don't see any change in it. And it has been a very difficult one because uh, the coverage in the newsroom and the operations that we have been difficulties that we have been facing in operations, it's very difficult to operate smoothly in the digital newsroom. And I don't think there is no concept of a digital newsroom without internet and easy access to information. And you see, not only the digital newsroom, it is related to all the newsroom, whether it's radio journalism or it's newspaper or TV. There is no concept of news media right now without internet.
Shazib, as editor Prism, and of course in a lot of your long form pieces, you tend to embed links from X or Twitter. How does this impact? And also, for example, now there's a culture of sending voice notes if people are asked for quotes, etc. Has all of this slowed down or impacted the way that you're able to package or get information for stories?
Priya, before I go on to the stories, I think I'll start my personal gripe, which is, the only way to sort of make sense of all of this is through humor. Sometimes we use dark humor among our groups. And I think my biggest gripe among all this is I can't send stickers anymore. The WhatsApp stickers that you send to each other, you're not able to send them. But yes, we're not able to send or receive audio notes. And I was trying to send a file to one of my freelance writers today. Couldn't go through. So it's been challenging to say the least, because information, obviously there's ways about it. You can use tools, you can use resources that you would normally not use. So WhatsApp had become one of the biggest channels for us, right? And it's easily accessible. Everyone has it on their phone, so it had become sort of a norm to share information among groups also via WhatsApp, but that's becoming increasingly difficult. And then we also saw over the weekend how, when reporters in the field and they want to send us videos or they want to send us content in terms of audio notes, because it's not always possible to type stuff out, it's increasingly becoming more difficult to sort of send information across. Obviously, like you mentioned, embedding tweets, what we're doing now is we're sort of attaching screenshots instead of embedding tweets, because even if we're able to embed them and we're able to use VPNs. Our readership doesn't necessarily have VPNs, and it just appears as a blank space in that stead. So I think yes, it's becoming increasingly difficult, and they're increasingly trying to sort of it's getting worse in terms of the amount of information being blocked out, right? And which is where all this disinformation arises. People in the power corridor zone realizes the more information you try to block, the more disinformation will spread, because we don't know what to trust and who to trust and whether the information is accurate or not, because we're not getting the funnel that is being created. It's being filtered so much that we don't know what is the truth and what isn't anymore.
Also, Shahzeb mentioned VPN bans as well, right? And of course, the government and ministers and everybody are on X, and they are posting, and that is newsworthy, and you do need to respond or cite it. Now, if you can't get to it, now VPNs are also being blocked. Also, if a reporter is in the field, mobile data is not working or VPNs stop working. What are newsrooms doing or field reporters doing to maybe circumvent this challenge? And is it even possible to circumvent this challenge?
I I don't think it's easy to circumvent this challenge, and they had to rush back to somewhere where they can connect to the office, and they sometimes they use Telegram or other tools to communicate with their newsroom. So it has not been a very easy going for the reporters who are out there to cover. Like we saw recently during the PTI protest, they have not been able to report timely. There have been delays in reporting, and all sort of massive was they were not able to send us timely videos, pictures, and what was happening right there during the protest. So there is a delay in reporting as well, despite all of this, you can say, technological advancement, but we are living in stone age right now.
And I just like to add there,
Yeah.
Freya, that Wasif spoke about the delay, but the issue with that delay also is that now we're competing with social media, where there's this overload of information, and what we're seeing is that people don't trust the mainstream media necessarily. And that's even before people shift to social media. There was a lack of trust in mainstream media, but because there's so much lag, and because we're obviously not covering everything like we want to, because of the information blockades, people are not even accessing our platforms for information, because they realize a lot of that information that we're getting is either delayed or we just don't have it because of the information blockage, right? So they're going to social media where there is information, but there's also a lot of disinformation, right? And what this government doesn't realize, what the beautiful minds sitting in the power corridors don't realize, is it's counterproductive, right? Because we have filtration processes, we have editorial policies in place that ensure that we're providing the accurate coverage. But when people go to social media, when they can't find this information on mainstream media, and they go to social media, there is this, it's chaos out there.
I would just add to what Shahzeb has said. He is very rightly pointed out. This is eroding the trust in media that the people have. Right now, what we saw during American election, American people doesn't believe they followed what was happening on social media, on podcasts. They did not believe in their mainstream media. And the same will happen to us. People are not watching legacy media houses. They are not following them. They are moving towards social media and other channels to get news.
And obviously so, right? Because I mean, there is this perception that also mainstream media, as we tend to call it, or in the American context, termed as legacy media, does tend to gatekeep. It's not just about the editorial checks, but gatekeep. And so even what we will hear on a X account of a journalist with a mainstream media is going to be a lot more information than we get from the official sources. But so again, what is it, do you think, that people in the power corridors are just not understanding, and how, because you are hearing of claims of digital Pakistan, digital economy, the shutdowns, we've seen what's happened in the region when the networks have been shut down, etc., right? And there's a disinformation problem. Even over the weekend, contesting narratives were there. How do you correct? How do you put accurate information out there? And people want to know. They want to get information, and they want to get timely information. Even if it's something like what route is open, right? Or if somebody's out for an emergency and you want to use maps or other services, that's just not available to you either. So in this context, how do you see going forward? Is this just going to be a new normal? Is this the norm now?
I
Well,
think
until
it's a
the
new
boomer
norm.
uncle, sorry, Wasif, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we should now come to this realization that it's a new normal and we have to adjust to this new ways of life, how to live without internet and without communication.
Now, I was just saying, until boomer uncles decide policy, until boomer uncles decide what is moral and what is immoral, and what is Islamic and un-Islamic, because apparently VPNs are un-Islamic, and all Pakistanis do with VPNs is watch porn online. Until the mindset is focused on these things, and they don't think about the economy, they don't think about the daily wage laborers, they don't think about how people are now attuned to technology, right? Technology is a very big part of our lives now, whether whatever profession you're in. Until policymakers don't realize how much of an impact it's having on people in their daily lives, I don't think we can move beyond this, because for them the prism is just morality for now. It's not about national security, right? Which would be one of the excuses, because if it was national security, they would be clamping down on platforms where militant groups and terrorist outfits are operating, and planning and recruiting and raising funds. But that's not what we're seeing now either. So because people sitting in these powerful positions, they don't have the knowledge of these platforms, right? And until there are some sane minds who actually know the IT sector, who actually know communication channels, and who know how this functions, I don't think we'd see anything different.
And finally, given if this is to be the new normal, which it seems it is, and it seems as if nobody in the policy-making circles wants to shift policy because there are certain advantages maybe for them in this scenario, and even if it's adversely impacting others, how do newsrooms, how do journalists counter this, right? Because you can't control a network shutdown, you can't control VPN bans, you can only find so many workarounds. So is there something that newsrooms are doing, media institutions are doing to also enhance capability to whatever degree as possible, and also assist their journalists and reporters?
Yeah, there is a continuous evolvement going on, and we have to see what if internet is not working, then what we have to do. If WhatsApp is not working, then what we have to do. It's a continuous process that we have been working and finding ways to circumvent this blockages. And I don't think there is a way that we can say okay, it's going to end anytime soon. And we always have to find ways to counter these issues.
Shahzeb, what is it that you at Prism are trying to do differently?
But yeah, I agree with Vasif. We have to adapt, and we have to sort of, try to find ways to get information, and also disseminate that same information to our audiences. But I do feel like, this is again one of those things where we call ourselves resilient. Karachi used to be a hotbed of militancy. We used to see attacks every day. We were resilient in waking up every day and going out, and we make this a new normal. And every single time the ruling dispensation has done something to throttle the internet, just walked on and just decided this is the new normal. But it can't be the new normal, because the world's moving ahead. The world's, it's reaching for the stars, and we're still talking about whether VPNs are Islamic or un-Islamic. So I don't think it should be the new normal. I think something has to give, because policymakers have to realize this can't be the new normal. Can't be left behind the Stone Ages while the world goes to Mars. And that's just the reality of it. The sooner they realize, the better. Unless they have relevant stakeholders, and unless they listen to the key people working in these sectors, right? And communication is the biggest sector that's being hit. That is us. We're the biggest stakeholders of this. Unless they're willing to listen, and unless they're willing to sort of work with us on this, I don't think it's sustainable in this manner, because ultimately what's going to happen is we are going to lag behind. We're already lagging behind in a lot of ways, but we are going to further lag behind, and that's all going to be on them.
Actually, on that note, last comment that I'd like to get from both of you is, since you're saying that in terms of we're lagging behind, when you see the digital media infrastructure and also the innovation in terms of how content is presented and what they have access to in other countries, and when you compare what we have in Pakistan, do you think it's disproportionately different, and we could be harnessing all of this Any examples that you see around you in the region or elsewhere where they've gone leaps and bounds because they have connectivity and resources, but we just are struggling at a very nascent stage?
Just the sheer access to big data and the processes involved in analyzing that data and cleaning it up and presenting it in a manner that's readable or user friendly or friendly to the audience. I think that is one of the biggest impediments in Pakistani journalism. We don't see investigative journalism enough. But beyond that too, just the way information is curated, just the way information is presented. I think we're vastly behind in that sense because all these Western media publications, the way they're disseminating information to relevant audiences across different channels. So they've got specific types of information or specific sort of ways to disseminate that information to specific audiences. I don't think we've caught on that yet, but that's also because we're worried if we sort of direct our resources towards one channel, and what if the government bans it, right? What do we do then? So I think we need a semblance of some sanity for us to be able to consolidate our resources and deploy them in a manner that is conducive to what we're trying to achieve. And I think with Pakistani journalism, it is high time that media organizations focus on investigative journalism, focus on long form, focus on stories that are not being told in the mainstream media.
I agree with Shahdev that we are not going forward, we are going backward. And despite the fact we know how people are now consuming news, they are not going to platforms or mainstream media. They are consuming information through different channels, social media platforms. And we are not even able to tap this potential. And we are just being forced to focus on very basic type of news journalism, which is, I don't think, going to be very beneficial for not for the media, for the country as well.
Absolutely, and what we see in foreign media or other digital media outlets in terms of how they're able to diversify the same content on different platforms. They use TikTok, Instagram, X, a lot of other features, and a lot of things that are embedded creatively. That too, unfortunately, we are not able to do because we don't even have basic connectivity to load, a digital print article, let's say. Let alone everything else, or audio, video, and other accompaniments. And of course, this is impacting professional journalism. There's a disinformation issue connected to it. And then the basic right to access and expression, which is also connected to it. Wasif and Shahzeb, thank you so much for joining us today on Dawn News English.